Greetings from our channel again. 24 November 2024, TD. In the middle of his sermon, Jake's voice abruptly ceased. As he slumped, 2.3 million people watched in horror as his eyes rolled back and his skin became gray. The doctor's discovery of the cause, however, was the real shock. The little-known tale of Bishop Jake's struggle for survival and his reputation is now emerging as a $100 million lawsuit threatens his business and ominous rumors circulate online. On June 9, 1957, T.D. Jakes was born in South Charleston, West Virginia. He grew up in a tiny, close-knit family with his parents, Ernest and Odette Jakes. Out of the 3 children, T.D. was the youngest. His father put forth a lot of effort and established a cleaning company that had over 40 employees. He cleaned grocery stores and the Capitol building in West Virginia. His mother taught sewing and cooking, among other household skills. These lessons, which she made sure all of her kids understood, proved to be very helpful to T.D. in the future. T.D.'s family resided in the segregated town of Vandalia when he was a little lad. Racial tensions made the 1960s a difficult decade, but the Jakes house was constantly bustling with activity and learning. Life appeared to be going as usual, but when T.D. was just 10 years old, everything changed. His father developed severe kidney illness. T.D. assisted in caring for him for the next 6 years. The family is going through a difficult time, but T.D. learned a lot about compassion and suffering from it. During this period, he frequently remained in his room and preached to his stuffed animals as though they were a large congregation at church. Because he always had a Bible with him and enjoyed discussing God, he was known as Bible Boy. Even as a child, T.D. had a strong curiosity for God. He once discovered that although it seems to be motionless, the earth is constantly in motion when traveling with his father. He was moved by this and began to consider how God sometimes works in ways that are invisible to us. However, T.D.'s journey wasn't flawless. He experienced a period of time as a teenager when he lost his faith. He began singing gospel hymns and other things one night at a party. Something significant occurred. He fled the house because he felt the Holy Spirit so intensely. He was reminded of his purpose and brought back to God in that time. After years of fighting kidney disease, T.D.'s father died when he was 16. For him it was devastating. He became irritated and perplexed and began to doubt God. He had to look after his family at the same time. 2 months prior to graduating from high school, T.D. left school since his mother became ill as well. To take care of her. Life was difficult, but he persisted. He became stronger and more sensitive to the suffering of others as a result of this difficult period. He felt called to become a preacher during this trying time. He had uncertainties and was still in pain, but he knew that this was what God intended him to do. T.D. made a significant move at the age of 23 by founding his own church. With only 10 members, it was a modest storefront in Montgomery, West Virginia. The Greater Emmanuel Temple of Faith is what he termed it. Life wasn't easy back then. To provide both his family and the church, T.D. worked throughout the day in a chemical plant. Working as a DJ at a Christian radio station, his wife Sarita also provided a great deal of assistance. Despite having little money, they managed to make it work. Their church was modest and uncomplicated. For the choir, T.D. even played the piano himself. He used to joke that they might have had 40 people on Easter Sunday if they included pregnant women and the dead. The church was small, but T.D. had a unique preaching style that resonated with listeners. He offered people hope while discussing issues that exist in real life. Slowly, the church expanded, and by 1983, T.D. had his first meeting. There were only 80 attendees. However, it marked the beginning of something far larger. His inspiring words of hope and healing would eventually reach thousands of people, particularly ladies in need of support. Bishop T.D. Jakes made a significant move in 1996. With only 50 families from his small congregation in West Virginia, he relocated to Dallas, Texas. He hosted the Potter's House's inaugural service in a rented space on July 28. Even though there were just 300 attendees, it marked the start of something enormous. The church required a larger space since 5,000 people were attending in just 6 months. Jakes paid $3.2 million for a 28-acre property in December. It was once owned by someone else, but the Potters now call it home. It was an amazing first service. Every seat was occupied, and more than 8,000 people gathered, standing in overflow areas. Everyone was impacted by Jake's stirring sermons and message of hope. The church was expanding so quickly by 1999 that a new sanctuary was constructed. It was enormous. 191,000 square feet, with a $45 million price tag. It could accommodate 8,000 people when it debuted in July 2000. Amazingly, the church only needed 4 years to pay off the loan. Beyond merely being a church, the Potter's House evolved into a global movement that transformed lives. The Potter's House has incredible expansion. The church had 10,000 members by the end of 1997. There were 20,000 2 years later. Because so many people wanted to attend, they began hosting 3 Sunday sessions in 2000. More than 23,000 people arrived every week. People of many colors and backgrounds were drawn to the church, reflecting Dallas's diversity. With over 30,000 members by 2005, it was among the biggest churches in the United States. There was more to the Potter's House. It established campuses in additional locations, including as Denver and Fort Worth. In 2010, the church transmitted its service to several locations on New Year's Eve, reaching more than 40,000 people in a single night. Attendance of 32,000 per week. It rose to prominence as one of the nation's most significant churches. TD. Jakes did more than expand the church. He became a filmmaker and a best-selling novelist. The New York Times published Woman, his first significant work. In 1993, Thou Art Loosed was released. It spent 75 weeks on bestseller lists and sold over 3 million copies. Jake became well known as a writer after that book, and he published more than 40 books that sold over 20 million copies. On significant bestseller lists, a few of his works have peaked at number 1. He changed his gender in 2004. The movie that Thou Art Lost to made $6.8 million at the box office. Other films produced by his production business, TDJ Enterprises, included Jumping the Broom and Heaven is for Real, both of which brought in over $100 million globally. Additionally, Jakes had a television show called The Potter's Touch that was seen by millions of people worldwide. He even started his own talk show in 2016. And later set up a streaming channel for his sermons and other programming in collaboration with Amazon. Jakes created strong groups as well. Beginning in 1995, TD Jakes Ministries gained notoriety for gatherings like Woman Thou Art Loosed, which expanded into a sizable conference. In 2004, the Atlanta event drew more than 52,000 attendees. Another incident. Over 100,000 individuals attended MegaFest, which also helped local economies. His company, TDJ Enterprises, expanded into a multi-division enterprise that now includes real estate, music, movies, and books. The business revealed a $150 million real estate project in Atlanta in 2022. TDJ Enterprises was making more than $500 million annually by 2023. Time magazine named TD Jakes the finest preacher in America in 2001. This was a significant event. The article was published right after the 9/11 attacks, when the country was in dire need of optimism. Jakes was commended by Time for his healing message and ability to connect with people. Jakes' fame grew even more as a result of the cover article. His books sold even more copies, and his TV audience rose. TD Jakes' accomplishments extend far beyond his role as a preacher. Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump have all consulted him. His leadership at the morning prayer session for Barack Obama's inauguration on January 20, 2009, was a significant event. Obama became the first black president of the United States, making this a historic day. Jakes continued after that. He also collaborated with foreign leaders such as King Abdullah of Jordan, President Rawlings of Ghana, and President Obasanjo of Nigeria. He went to an African leaders' luncheon at the White House in 2014. Additionally, he was there when Pope Francis visited the United States in 2015. This demonstrates how Jakes affects the world and ties politics and spirituality together. Jakes began Talking with America in 2015, focusing on important topics including criminal justice reform and racial inequity. In a 2016 live forum, he discussed these concepts with Chris Matthews of MSNBC. 1 million or more people watched the event live online, and many influential people, including journalists and members of Congress, attended. This demonstrates how Jakes solves practical issues by fusing action with spiritual leadership. Jakes is well known in Hollywood as well. His producing company has produced films that have brought in over $500 million globally. Jumping the Broom, which was one of his hits and the year's top comedy, was released in 2011. Another was Jennifer Garner's 2016 film Miracles from Heaven. These films demonstrated that religious tales may be popular forms of entertainment. Demonstrated his desire to reach a wider audience. Jakes is more than just a filmmaker. He puts a lot of effort into assisting others. He established the TD Jakes Foundation in 2020 with the goal of raising $100 million for marginalized areas. He and Wells Fargo collaborated to develop $1 billion in resources for these communities in 2023. $9 million have already been distributed to 16 groups before the beginning of 2024. The foundation provides housing assistance, career training, and financial education. Additionally, Jakes founded TORI, the Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative, which has assisted more than 42,000 ex-offenders in starting afresh. This program gives people a second chance by providing housing, education, and job support. Jakes Church, also known as the Potter's House, makes a concerted effort to assist during difficult times. Jakes accompanied President George W. Bush to the devastation areas following Hurricane Katrina in 2005. During numerous calamities, like as the 2010 Haitian earthquake, the church's Megacare program has provided assistance. They provided hundreds of meals to underprivileged families during COVID-19. Jakes is a savvy businessman as well. His real estate business enhances communities and constructs affordable housing. He collaborated with a Miami developer in 2023 to build family-friendly homes. In addition, he is the author of the best-selling novel Crushing, and conducts leadership initiatives to motivate others. Thousands of people attend his International Leadership Summit to gain knowledge about leadership and business. For years, TD Jakes has been embroiled in discussions regarding his beliefs regarding the Trinity. In the late 1990s, he began to draw criticism for referring to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as manifestations rather than individuals. This led some theologians to infer that he was a modalismist, which asserts that God is not three separate persons but rather one person manifesting in three different ways. When Jakes went to the Elephant Room Conference in 2012, the issue erupted. He was directly questioned about his convictions by pastors Mark Driscoll and James MacDonald. Jakes' statement, "one God, three persons," seemed to support conventional wisdom. However, he went on to say that he disliked the word person and favored manifestations, claiming it is a biblical phrase. People were perplexed by this. Critics were offended when his church's website continued to use the phrase manifestations. Some assumed he was merely trying to escape criticism, while others thought he was attempting to change his opinions. In 2016, a theologian stated that Jake continued to employ language that left people wondering about his true beliefs. As a result, he is still questioned by many conservative Christians. Jake's teachings and preaching style have also drawn criticism from conventional churches. His affiliation with the Word of Faith movement, which many believe propagates false ideas, is a significant problem. Jakes reportedly told viewers at a Trinity Broadcasting Network fundraiser in 2001 that donating money would result in prosperity, excellent relationships, and wealth. This message ran counter to the conventional Christian belief that giving is an act of faith rather than a means of receiving something in return. Jakes made headlines in 2015 when he said that you will never be broke again if you obeyed God. This message about money, according to critics, is dangerous and simplistic. Some claim that his sermons feel more like self-help than genuine preaching since they frequently combine Bible lessons with inspirational speech. He startled the audience in 2007 when he spoke in tongues during a live sermon without providing an explanation, something that is forbidden by the Bible. Jakes has also been charged for failing to discuss sin and repentance enough. He attacked white evangelicals in a 2019 interview for concentrating too much on abortion and same-sex marriage while ignoring social justice. Many conservative figures were offended by this and began disparaging him as a fake instructor. The prosperity gospel is another issue surrounding Jakes. Many people think he preaches that success and fortune come from obedience and faith. Lifestyle contributes to this critique. He reportedly owned a $1.7 million house in 2005. Donned fashionable outfits and drove expensive automobiles, which some claimed went against Jesus' teachings on living simply. A 2017 tweet from Jakes promised, "If you obey God, you will never be broke another day in your life." There have even been reports of churchgoers giving up all their savings and then experiencing financial difficulties. Jakes stated in one sermon, "People need spiritual prosperity before they can have financial prosperity." Critics claim this equates spiritual maturity with wealth, which is untrue. Although Jakes claims that his lessons are meant to assist people escape poverty, his actions, such as launching a program to train 1,000 millionaires, raise doubts about his intentions. Many people think his message distorts the gospel and serves his interests at the expense of his followers. Over the years, TD Jake's opinions on LGBTQ+ topics have evolved significantly, drawing both acclaim and criticism. Claimed that abuse or poor parenting may be the culprit. However, in a 2015 interview, he shocked many by stating that every church and homosexual individual was unique and that the LGBTQ+ community and the black church could coexist. This led some to believe that he was in favor of same-sex partnerships. Additionally, Jakes had to make it clear that he opposed same-sex marriage due to the intense criticism. He demonstrated a change in priorities in 2021 when he attacked white evangelicals for concentrating too much on topics like same-sex marriage while neglecting racial justice and poverty. Jakes then said that traditional gender norms were out of date in a sermon from 2022. He didn't specifically address LGBTQ+ concerns, but this demonstrated his willingness to question conventional wisdom. These changes have caused conservatives to turn away from him, but progressives and LGBTQ+ proponents perceive him as growing more tolerant. The well-known Dallas pastor of the Potter's House, Bishop T.D. Jakes, was abruptly connected to a significant legal dispute involving music entrepreneur Sean Combs, Diddy. Record producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones sued Combs on March 25, 2024, alleging he had committed horrible atrocities. On page 47 of the lawsuit, there was a claim that astonished people. It stated that when his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura accused him of abuse, Combs intended to utilize his relationship with Bishop Jakes to improve his public image. Everyone was taken aback by this reference to Jakes, which sparked speculation about his relationship with Combs. Since the lawsuit didn't specify how, people began to speculate. Combs and Jakes had previously collaborated. Combs co-founded Revolt TV in 2021, and Jakes introduced his kingdom culture preaching to the network. Jakes went to Combs' lavish birthday celebration in 2022. People began to question whether their relationship was deeper than it appeared as a result of these incidents. According to the lawsuit, Combs believed Jakes could leverage his reputation as a well-liked pastor to help him avoid criticism from the public. This thought astounded me. Both the entertainment industry and the religious community. When rumors began to circulate online in late 2023, the situation deteriorated. There was no evidence to support the assertions made in several posts that Jakes had gone to private parties that Combs had thrown. However, Jakes' reputation suffered greater harm as a result of the rumors. Jakes first kept quiet about the accusations, which piqued people's interest. He did, however, ultimately speak on April 15, 2024, in a Sunday sermon that was broadcast live to millions of people. He said that the charges were falsehoods intended to undermine his pastoral work. He vowed to defend his ministry and referred to the accusations as an attack. A few days later, on April 18, Jakes sued Rodney Lil Rod Jones for defamation, claiming that Jones owed him $100 million. He said that the lawsuit's allegations were untrue and had seriously harmed his reputation. Additionally, Jakes targeted YouTube accounts that were circulating false information about him. He filed lawsuits on May 2, 2024, asking YouTube to identify the people behind them and demanding $50 million from each channel. He thought these channels were fabricating articles about him using artificial intelligence. Jakes continued after that. He established an independent board of reputable leaders and legal professionals to look into the claims in order to demonstrate that he had nothing to conceal. He allowed them complete access to his personal files and church documents. Jakes even underwent a lie detector exam to demonstrate his honesty, and on July 15, 2024, the results were released to the public. He also instituted new policies, such as background checks for senior officials each year, and made the church's financial records publicly available. Bishop T.D. Jakes was preaching to a large congregation at the Potter's House in Dallas on November 24, 2020, in 1924. More than 2.3 million people watched online, while more than 12,000 individuals attended in person. An hour or so had passed since he finished his sermon, Strength and Weakness. Then a startling event occurred. It was precisely 10:37 a.m. "O Lord, my strength, my Redeemer, let them go in peace," he pleaded. He paused. The entire church was silent when the microphone dropped out of his hand and hit the floor with a thunderous noise. Jakes began to shake violently. His towering, normally vivacious body was shaking. His complexion became gray, and his eyes rolled back. Every detail was captured on camera, and he gasped for air for almost a minute. The congregation was stunned. Loud prayers were heard, and some people even started speaking in tongues. Panic spread quickly. The stress caused 3 senior members to faint. Even worse, this occurred on the day that the Potter's House was established. 28 years prior, transforming a joyous day into a terrifying one. Quick action was taken by the church. In a matter of seconds, cardiologist Dr. Mariah Stevenson, who was seated in the front row, hurried over to Jakes. She began to shout directions and check his pulse. Security Chief Marcus Washington promptly triggered Operation Shepherd's staff, the church's emergency plan. This made the refuge clear. 3,000 individuals were swiftly evacuated to create space for aid. In less than 30 seconds, usher Sarah Martinez dashed through the crowd to retrieve the AED. It took 4 minutes for paramedics to arrive. They got to work quickly, stabilizing Jake's condition within 4 and emergency medicines. An important factor was the church's helipad, which had only been put in a year and a half before. Jakes was transported to Methodist Dallas Medical Center by helicopter immediately after it arrived. Although the flight lasted only 7 minutes, to those who watched, every second seemed to drag on forever. Jakes had a lengthy 9-hour surgery at the hospital. He recovered quite quickly. He underwent 3 more surgeries and required 47 units of blood. He spent 17 days in the intensive care unit, receiving round-the-clock nursing care. Jakes made his first public appearance on the 18th, a video call to his church just 24 days after the event. His point was succinct yet impactful. He informed them that he was recuperating from a potentially fatal situation. More than $4 million was raised for the hospital's heart unit alone from that video. He put a lot of effort into healing. Under the direction of one of the top physicians, he spent hours each day in physical therapy. He also adhered to a rigorous diet prescribed by dietitians and tried cutting-edge oxygen therapy. Jakes continued to be busy even after he recovered. Reborn, Finding Strength in Life's Valleys is his most recent book. From the comfort of his hospital bed, he dictated the entire book. 3 months later, it was launched, and it sold over 2 million copies in its first week, making it an immediate hit. Jakes returned to the pulpit on New Year's Eve. 11 million people watched him online, while more than 18,000 people attended his live performance. Despite being leaner, he exuded vitality. The Comeback King, his sermon, was moving and motivational. The impact of his words caused many in the audience to cry as they listened. It was a moment of hope and victory, proving to everyone that you can get back up after the most trying times. Sarita Jameson and T.D. Jakes first met in a small West Virginia church. At the age of 23, T.D. was a guest preacher in 1982. The 26-year-old Sarita was attracted to him right away. Their bond was so deep that they were married on May 29, 1982, just 6 months later. Their journey together started then, full of obstacles and love as they entered a life in the spotlight. With 5 children, Sarah, Cora, Jermaine, Thomas Jr., and Jamar, they established a family over time. Being a parent is never easy, but raising children in public has additional challenges. When their son Jermaine was arrested for indecent exposure in 2009, it made headlines. The family persevered through a difficult period. Even in these situations, their children have performed well. Sarah, a well-known author, evangelist, and mother of 6, was born in 1988. Born in 1994, Thomas Jr. has established himself as a well-known media personality and music producer. Relocated his ministry to Texas's Dallas. For the entire family, this was a significant shift. It was difficult for Sarita and the children to go to a new city and adapt to a new way of life, but they supported one another. In 2024, after 42 years of marriage, T.D. referred to Sarita as his ride-or-die soulmate. Despite all the ups and downs, their love remained strong. T.D. Jakes wasn't solely concerned with his family. He was busier than most people might imagine due to his work. Although it began modestly in 1996, his church, the Potter's House, has since expanded to include thousands of members. At its height, he wrote books, produced films, and released music in addition to preaching 4 lengthy sermons every weekend. He wrote more than 40 books, put out around 20 albums, and made innumerable movies by 2024. He gave more than 150 sermons throughout his trip to 16 different countries in 2018. He frequently missed significant family moments because of this type of business. In one interview, he acknowledged that he regretted not being present at his son's high school graduation. Despite his hectic schedule, T.D. managed to incorporate his family into his profession. Sarita rose to prominence at their church as the head of the women's ministries. Sarah, their daughter, became a writer and minister, following in his footsteps. However, they were still put to the test by life. Sarita underwent surgery in 2012 to treat a herniated disc. T.D. had to balance his job with taking care of Mom as she recovered, which made him realize how crucial family is no matter how hectic life becomes.